So the presence of all this, technical difficulties, the presence of technical difficulties, presence of insufficient storage on your iPhone. Yeah, you recognize the presence of what is. Really, awakening is just changes in identification. So it's not that the streams of experience change. It's not that the rivers or the spheres of the experiential field change. Like seeing doesn't go away, hearing doesn't go away, feeling doesn't go away. Your capacity to think doesn't go away. I mean, all these awakened people, they write tons of books. That doesn't go away. So what is it that changes? What's changing is identification with the field. And of course, the initial recognition of the field, period. There's no recognition of presence before awakening. At least there wasn't for me. Yeah, it happened on a specific day in my case. A specific moment in time it occurred. So, okay, let's proceed on. Gatha 2, it presents as experiential qualities that appear as infinitely differentiated, yet the field of presence itself alone exists entirely one with itself. Look within your experiential field and you will notice an infinity of different qualities present in the moment. Myriad colors, sounds, touch, textures, smells, tastes, nuances of thought, emotions, moods, subtle psychic flavors without limit. And yet all these flavors of experience can't be found in themselves. They have no independent existence other than as your present experience itself. The experiential field appears as all these qualities, but never becomes anything more than experience. And the qualities themselves can't be found except as experience. So experience alone exists. Look for yourself and notice clearly how this is so. An experience is seen to be an inclusive continuum. There are no breaks, no gaps, no barriers or boundaries, no edges, no points, where something ends and something else begins within it. It does not have parts or sections. It has no divisions of any kind within it, separating seemingly different qualities from each other, any more than one wave is divided from another in the ocean. I'll read that again because it was a little choppy. It does not have parts or sections. It has no divisions of any kind within it, separating seemingly different qualities from each other, any more than one wave is divided from another in the ocean. So the field experience itself is continuous. It's uninterrupted. There's no breaks in it. There may be forgetting, or there may be amnesia. So for example, deep sleep is like that. You remember dreams, but you don't remember dreamless sleep unless you just happen to have that capacity, or you did dream yoga and are able to remember it. But besides those exceptions, the field of experience is always the case. It's uninterrupted, it's unobstructed. Nothing that happens, nothing that you do or don't do ever increases or decreases the presence of experience, and ever increases or decreases the immediacy of experience. Ever. So the immediacy of this is 1000% complete and whole and full. It is 1000% immaculate fullness. It's not, there's no so even if we look at for example, if my vision was impaired, so if the clarity of my vision was only 50% what it is or what it normally is, it's 1000% that 50%. It's only 50% in comparison to what it formerly was. But as opaque vision, it's 1000% that 50. It's 1000% what it is. It's the same with the rest of the field. A thought is 1000% a thought. A feeling is 1000% that feeling. Reality actually never holds back. It can't. Everything is always its total expression. The term for this in Buddhism is total exertion. Everything extinguishes itself in its arising. It extinguishes itself in its presence. It fully expresses itself. Fire is 1000% fire. Air is 1000% air. Everything is actually always full on what it is. It's just that our noticing is fractured, or our attention is in fantasy. And even the fantasies are 1000% what they are. That's also the crazy thing. All fantasies and interpretive schemas are 1000% present as those interpretations. They're 1000% immediate. So fantasy is its own kind of reality. It may not accurately, and it can't accurately describe what is. It can't accurately describe reality. But as mental pictures and as internal dialogue, it is 1000% mental picture, 1000% internal dialogue, 1000% immediate. It's not like fantasy is something outside reality. Fantasy is its own reality in the same way that seeing is its own reality, is its own sphere of experience, of reality. Nonetheless, it's reality. So there's no breaks, there's no gaps, meaning this is always this uninterruptedly. You meditate a lot, it's still this. You don't meditate much, it's still this. Let's say that the change or the absence, loss of identification is a spectrum. So on this hand here, you have total identification with the body, total identification with thought, massive sense of self, really big ego. You think the whole universe is about you. So from that to all the way to here, which is the extinguishment of that structure, the absence of that structure. So this part of consciousness that says and asserts I is gone. So that's here. Ordinary consciousness is here. Whether it's here or it's here, they're both reality. Both reality, both immediate, both consciousness. Conscious, reality, experience, they're all words for the same thing. So whether it's from the beginning quote or to the end quote, beginning and end are really just designations for points in time. And the designations for specific characteristics. So I can say, for example, now I'm quote more awakened than I was 7 years ago. What does that actually mean? It means that on this spectrum of total identification to the absence of identification, there's been a major movement from that to this. But this and that are both reality, they're both experience, they're both consciousness. They're just configured differently. So one configuration, we call it the ignorant condition. The other configuration, we call it the awakened condition. In the awakened condition, identification has ceased. In the awakened condition, clinging has ceased. In the awakened condition, the assertion of a personal, separate, individual self has died. So that's the difference. In the worldly condition, all of those factors are present. In the awakened one, they're absent. You can only have one with the other. Right? It's like waking and sleeping. There is no sleeping without waking. There is no waking without sleeping. They don't exist without each other. It's the same thing with ignorance and wisdom, or enlightenment and unenlightenment. They're polar opposites. So you can actually only wake up if you've been asleep. So for this whole thing to even be possible, there has to be ignorance. There has to be the unaware or the unenlightened condition. And then a journey is possible. Quote, journey. Many of you have, and I've probably said it here before, there's no path to immediacy. Sure, there's a path to the loss of clinging and the absence of identification. I can tell you what happened for that. But there's no path for this. There's no path for immediacy. There's no path to reality. Because every path is reality. There's no path to immediacy because everything that you could do, could possibly do, have done, or won't do is 1000% immediate. So immediacy is a little different compared to nowness. So when we're talking about, at least in terms of what I mean by the words, so now is referring to time. So what we consider the past to be is actually occurring in our thoughts now. What we're planning for in regards to the future, when we arrive at that configuration of the experiential field, it will be now. So all thoughts of the future, all thoughts of the past are occurring in this. But immediacy is referring to the bare contact, the bare in your faceness of experience. That's what I mean by immediacy. Yeah, the presence of what is, the presence of anything and everything is its immediacy. So so the stream of immediacy is uninterrupted. the stream of the presence of experience is uninterrupted. And there's only a stream, even the word stream. Like when I say stream, that's a temporal reference, past, present, future. For a stream, there's movement, right? And there's actually only movement if there's it was over there, now it's here, it'll be there. So there's also temporal time designation. Yeah, but it's possible for the immediacy of experience to become so immense that there's a sense that the river of experience stops. One second. Okay. Yeah. There's this quote, famous words, Papa G, nothing ever happened. What does that mean? It means that, for example, fire or like firewood. We because of causality, we know that there's wood, and then there's the wood on fire, and then there's ash. We know that this is the case because of memory. Without memory, that would not be discernible. So Nagarjuna, he in his 70 stanzas on emptiness, he negates causality. The notion that X becomes Y becomes Z. He negates that through the teachings on emptiness. So if you actually look at X, you don't find anything there. If you actually look at Y, you don't find anything there. If you actually look at Z, you don't find anything there. Like what was stated in the commentary just now, that when you look for the characteristics of the experiential field, you don't find anything. You just find the field. You just find the presence of that, the presence of the field. But the thing itself, can't find it. Can't find hearing, you can't find thinking. It's all just mist, right? So if X, Y, and Z is actually just mist, unfindable, ungraspable formations, then how could you find what supposedly connects these particular conditions? What actually connects fire to a piece of wood that's on fire and then to ash? Is there actually this thing between moments that we can find? No, there is not. So there's some Zen quotes that say, wood is wood and fire is fire and ash is ash. The causality is inferred. Causality between events is there because of memory. But if the object itself can't actually be found, it can't actually be discerned as this independent thing, then this whole notion that anything is happening at all or transforming at all or changing at all can come undone. And that's exactly what Nagarjuna is attempting to convey in his 70 stanzas on emptiness. That causality is an appearance, just like the body is an appearance, just like the mind is an appearance, just like the world is an appearance. Because all these things, body, mind, world, self, tree, these are all designations for various forms of mist. So through this apprehension, or through this direct noticing of immediacy, that this immediacy can become so immaculate that there's a sense of the wheel of time stopping, or the wheel of experience stopping, which of course is also an experience, which of course is a thing that happens in reality. But it can very much be the case that the sense that something is happening, the sense that things are moving, the sense that things are changing is based on like this invisible temporal structure and consciousness that recognizes the movement of time. And if that structure is suppressed, then you have the sense that this is not happening. There is no happening. Yeah, I think in Mahayana Buddhism, they call this the emptying of the perception skanda, the emptying of the perception aggregate. So you have the perception that time is unfolding and that change is occurring, and that wood gives rise to fire, wood burns, and that produces ash. But if you actually really look, there's nothing connecting moments. There's just this, however it appears at a given point of designation. A given point of designation in one instance is this is appearing as wood. A given point in another designation is this is appearing as wood that is on fire. A given designation following the case is ash. But there's nothing actually connecting these three designations. Let's proceed to the last one. Gatha 3, what and how it is entirely infinite and unresolvable to examination, even though it appears with perfect clarity and immediate, unconcealed completeness. What and how it is entirely infinite. So that means the experiential field has infinite characteristics, has infinite configurations. Even just the spheres of the experiential field have infinite configurations. There's an infinite computations, infinite putting togethers of sound, infinite putting togethers of sight, infinite putting togethers of tactile sensation. There's no limit. Same thing with thought. There's no limit, right? There's no limit to the stream of thought and what how thought is structured and what appears in thought in the form of mental pictures and in the form of internal dialogue. Like the computations on that are infinite. So the next word is unresolvable to examination. The experiential field being unresolvable to examination. Unresolvable means you can't. So resolvable means you're able to pinpoint it exactly as this. So when you look at intention, you can't find this like bead in consciousness, this eternal bead in consciousness called intention. You just find the stream of uh, that particular formation. And then when you look at it, it's like it's there or it's gone. It's not resolvable. So the experiential field, it can't be resolved as anything in particular. That's the meaning of that word. It's unresolvable. It has no definite um, no definite form. Even though it appears with perfect clarity and immediate unconcealed completeness. So even though it's perfectly present as this, it's perfectly immediate as this, it's not immediate as anything in particular. It's not immediate as anything, uh, it's not limited to only being a specific thing. The perfect clarity is the immediateness of this. The immediate unconcealedness means that it's 100% revealed as this. It doesn't hold back. It's totally complete. Seeing is totally complete as seen. And this is the commentary. If you study your experience to try to discover what it is, what it's made of, how it works, or anything precise about it, you will discover something peculiar. You'll find that it's impossible to pin down, to accurately describe, or to resolve exactly. This is peculiar because your experience is so clearly, completely, and directly appearing, not in any way murky or hidden, clearly available to examination. So you might expect it to be more easily discoverable, but exploring it more closely gets you no further to sorting out what it is than your first glance does. Experience is found to be entirely paradoxical. It is nothing in particular that can be found, yet it appears as all apparent particular characteristics. It has no size or space, yet appears as all spaces. It has no time, yet time appears within it. It is unchanging, yet appears as ceaselessly changing. It has no solidity, yet appears as all solidity. It has no difference from itself, yet appears as all difference. It itself has no detail, yet appears as infinite detail, and so on. So the important line here is it is unchanging, yet appears as ceaselessly changing. The presence of experience is continuous and immediate. And for example, the presence of sight, as far as seeing is concerned, it's this stream of information, infinite configurations of visual data, which are all changing. But the presence of this data is not. The presence of this data never increases or decreases. And it's the same with every other part of the experiential field. So that's another way to ascertain the nothing is happening realization, or to get a sense of that. It's like reality is only this flux or this flow of processes. And though the processes are subject to change and are subject to transformation, they may change form or they may change state. Uh, Fundamentally, they're all reality and they're all experience, and that is not a fact that changes. The presence of any aspect of the experiential field, that presence, that immediacy, is constant. So it's paradoxical. It's constant in its presence, yet impermanent in its appearance. The field is paradoxical. It's mysterious in this regard. It's like there's only things that are happening. There's only experience. There's only this, and this is constant. This is interrupted. But when we look for this and we look for the characteristics that comprise this, those characteristics are always changing, always transforming. Yet nonetheless, they're always this. All right.